Okay, I just saw Avengers Infinity War, and I need to talk about a lot of things. I think this video is gonna be, like, unedited because, oh my god. So, because it's gonna be, like, I don't know where this video is gonna go. It's probably gonna be a review, but mostly, like, just, oh my god reaction. It's gonna have spoilers. So, give you a chance right now to not watch this video anymore in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so Avengers Infinity War. Now, this has been coming for, I think, around 6 years. I've been waiting for this culmination of everything. I mean, you have, like, of course, you have the Avengers franchise, and you also have, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then you have, like, Doctor Strange, and then, you know, the one-offs, like, you know, like Black Panther and everybody, and they just get together. So the whole premise of the story is basically Thanos is getting together all the stones, all the Infinity Stones. And he's his goal, and I will say this, that's the one thing I liked about this Avengers movie is, and I do agree with a lot of reviewers, is that a lot of the Marvel, one of the weakest aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, sorry, I'm like, is that the villains are kind of weak, or their backstory is like, you just don't care about them. But Thanos was very thought out. He had a mission. He had a reason of why he did what he did, what his mission was. And basically it was, in his eyes, he thinks he's doing right. He wants to end suffering, but he has to bring death in order to bring suffering. So his thing was kill all half of all living beings in the universe. And so the movie opens up with Thanos and I forgot the three, like, side guys that were with him, and they were finding one of the stones that that Loki was hiding in the Tesseract, and so they were fighting him, and also Hulk was there. So it was Hulk, it was Loki, it was Thor. And they were, like, fighting him, but, you know, they were overcome. And thinking back now, I kind of thought it was weird that Hulk, he fought, but he didn't fight, like, really much. It's explained later in the movie why that was happening, but he just in my eyes, he sort of gave up. And I'm like, alright. And so, at first, Loki's like, I don't have the stone, or whatever, and Thanos is like, no, you definitely have it, because I sensed it here, and he does get, Thanos does get the stone, but this is the only death I didn't care about. Loki died, like, straight up died, and at first I wasn't sure he died, because you know how he does this thing where he can manifest himself into other Lokis, and so the Loki that was there could potentially not be there. Well, he dies. And then it was like, I almost laughed in the theater, because I can't stand Loki, and sorry, I can't stand Loki fans. And I was like, that's cool. I was like, no big deal, that's cool. So he was, like, the first death. Then it was kind of insinuated that Thor died too. Until, well, later. And then, back on Earth, you have, it's revealed that Tony and Pepper are getting married. And I was like, oh, Pepperoni got back together, yay! But, that's kind of short-lived, because, the aliens and stuff are starting to come down, because there was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was 3 Infinity Stones on Earth. I think there's 3, I believe. And because there's a total 6, and Thanos already had, I believe, he had at least 1. I think 2. I need to rewatch this movie, obviously. And so that happens, and then so another fight happens. I'm like truncating a lot of scenes that were happening in between from Loki dying till now. And Pepper's kind of pissed because she's like, oh, not again, you know, cuz and Tony's kind of lying to her and stuff about her or about him having to fight. And then he kind of gets pulled into Doctor Strange's like house, and oh my god, talk about they hated each other from the get-go, and I kind of loved it because they're both men who, I don't want to say they're narcissists, they're very prideful characters, and trust me, I love Tony, but sometimes Tony can be, you know, a little into himself, but they're both like smart guys, you know. With Stephen Strange, he's like the top surgeon, and with Tony Stark, he's like the top tech guy, so you have like the battle of the brains going on with these two. And they just, I mean, at one point, who called one another a douchebag? I was like, oh shit. It was just like, ugh. And kind of funny that, like, I know, like, with other fandoms, it's like, oh, both the Sherlock Holmeses are fighting. That's hilarious. So you get a meeting of them, and also, you know, you get Peter, once the aliens start, like, fighting, coming down to fight people, you get this quick scene, and I think it was shown in a trailer where his spider senses come up and his hair stands up, and he's like, I gotta go, and then he tells his best friend to create a distraction. He's like, oh my god, we're all gonna die. I was like, oh my god, that kid's crazy. So he jumps out the window, and he gets into his spider suit, and he joins the fight. And Tony's like, what do you do? You know, Tony gets into dad mode every time, like, Peter Parker, like, decides to get involved with this. And so then they're all fighting. And then later on in the movie, you eventually do get to, you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy. And you automatically know it's their scene. Because the Rubber Man Band starts playing. I knew the song right away. Some people were like, what? I was like, oh, some of these people don't know 70s music. Oops. But you knew right away, just because the music is different. So they're fighting and stuff, and they figure out what was going on. Oh yeah, and then the reason they're shown, because Thor's alive, and he smacks into their ship, and he's like, like, oh my god, because he looks like he's dead, so they bring him in. And I really enjoyed that scene where they're kind of making fun of Peter Quill, and they're like saying how hot Thor is and like how big his muscles are, and like Peter's like, I got muscles too, and they're kind of insinuating that he's like fat, and he's like, I'm not fat. I was like, oh my god. And it was just it was funny. So they're together. I'm trying to think of how Bruce meets people. He eventually, oh yeah, he's down in Earth. That's right, because Bruce, oh yeah, I was actually kind of upset that Heimdall died. So Heimdall gets killed, and he was killed before Loki. I'm so sorry. Like I said, this is gonna be like a wacky video, and I was kind of upset that Heimdall died. So he actually pulled the last of his powers, and he threw Bruce Banner back to Earth with the not the Rainbow Bridge. Sorry, I'm like forgetting the name, and I'll just put it in the comments and yell at me. So he gets back down to Earth, but for some reason, like, when Tony and, because this is all happening at the same time, Tony and Strange and Strange's assistant, I can't remember his name, I'm so sorry. There's like so many people in this movie, and they're fighting, and like, they're like, dude, bring out the Hulk, and he's like, I'm trying, and like, Hulk's actually fighting him. He's like, no, I don't want to come out, no. And it's just so funny, like, his face will kind of turn green, like, no. So they kind of had to hide him safely because he would have gotten hurt. And oh, this movie, oh, I'm telling you, I wasn't prepared. Now, I heard rumors that people were gonna die. I mean, that was just unavoidable. It's just word of mouth, and like people who can't, like, I don't know how to word things on social media. I'm trying to be good, but this is why I'm making this video, so I can like get it out all there, because I really want to type up like, why did this person, why did this, blah blah blah, you know. So eventually they, you know, the group start. Oh yeah, and then you have, eventually you get to Captain America, and he's with Natasha, and he, you know, there's also Vision, and then there's the Scarlet Witch, and they're all together. Actually, Captain America saves, like, Scarlet Witch and Vision, because, one of the, Thanos' bad guys, was trying to get to Vision's, Infinity Stone, and, I believe it's the Soul Stone, and Vision does get stabbed, but because he's part machine, it doesn't really, I mean, it hurts him, but he's not gonna die right away. And so Captain America just so happens to be there, and, you know, he saves him, and, you know, this epic fight, and then, you know, eventually you do get to, you know, they fly to Wakanda, and, you know, at Wakanda, they you know, they're telling, oh yeah, because they fly to Wakanda, and then Bucky is there. So, you know, it's just, everybody's getting together. And you know what, the story, I'm describing it really shittily, and I know this, but it flows much better how I'm telling you. I'm like the world's shittiest storyteller. So, you know, that everybody gets together. The action scenes were, like, intense. They were really intense. I know some people complain about, like, some of the action scenes being too short, too long. I thought they were balanced. You do get, like, a balance of action and monologues and this and that. But I'm gonna get too long describing the movie. You need to see the movie. So let me fast forward. So eventually Tony Stark gets into space, and along with him is Peter Parker and Doctor Strange. And of course they're fighting again because, you know, we need to do it this way, we need to do it that way. And they land on a planet. This is like fast forwarding again. They kill the one Thanos' minion guy. They killed him. I need to see if he was played by Doug Jones, because it kind of looked like Doug Jones. I'll look it up, and if it is, I'll maybe put a thing up here if I did discover it was Doug Jones. But anyway, they defeat him, so they kill him, and he's like, he floats off into space, freezing. Then they land on this planet, and at first the Guardians of the Galaxy thought Tony and the crew were, like, part of Thanos, and so they start fighting, and then they realize that they're like, oh shit, we're against the same guy. So they eventually stop fighting, and, you know, and everything else. So they get together. I really enjoyed that scene where, like, Peter's he kind of trolls Tony and whatnots, and it was a funny scene. And oh, Mantis, she was so adorable, because she's kind of like Drax, where they're too literal sometimes, but she messes up certain phrases, and she was like, we're here to take ass and kick names. I was like, oh, you're so adorable. So, let me fast forward a little bit, because I really do, even though it's going to be painful to watch, I'm telling you, I was like, there was a couple scenes where I was like, this, and I'll get to that in a second. So, you know, eventually everybody gets on the same page. And I almost cried. I never cry to movies. Anybody that knows me knows I don't cry to movies. I have cried to a TV show once. And it was getting to that it almost felt like the same, the way it was happening. Because I was like, oh, not this again. And they were, they were fighting, and at first I thought Tony died, and he doesn't die, thank God. Because he does get stabbed in the guts the same way, and this is why I'm like that's why I almost got upset, because it reminded me, if anybody, and spoiler alert, if anybody's ever watched Angel, the final season, when Wesley got killed and he got stabbed the same way, that's what it reminded me of, and I got like very upset. I was like on the verge of tears, because Tony has always been my favorite like guy, like ever since Iron Man came out, like the movie. I've just been very attached to him, and I have a couple other things I need to, well, it's probably gonna be like complaints, but but then Strange, he like gives up his stone so that, Tony could survive, because he was like, he realizes that, he just comes to a realization that, maybe people are more important than a stone or having powers. I thought that was kind of cool. But, man, wasn't ready. There was like a lot more. Oh, and then the other terrible scene was, in order for Thanos to get the Soul Stone, you have to give up a soul to get the Soul Stone. So I wonder how that's gonna work out for Infinity War 2, whatever they're gonna call it. Because he killed Gamora. Like, he straight up, like, tossed, and he was like, because she's like, oh, you can't get the Soul Stone, and she was giving this whole thing, like, because you love nobody, but it turns out that he loved her, and he's, like, crying, and he's, like, all upset, but he's like, I gotta do this, and he's like, I'm so sorry, and you can sort of see him hesitating, but he's like, I made a mistake once, because he thinks that he saved her from her planet before he, like, terrorized it, and then, he just tosses her over a cliff, and she dies, and he eventually gets the Soul Stone. That was pretty tragic. And then you have, eventually Thor gets another hammer. I forget why, but it's needed, I think, in order to defeat all the stones. I didn't quite understand that, and that's why I need to watch the movie again, because I know there's Marvel movies, you need to watch them again. Because I know there's like a shit ton that I am missing, and so this review's probably like, but this is why it's like the unedited version. But anyway, but he had to make the hammer, but the guy, all of his race was killed, like all the dwarves, and he was played by Peter Dinklage, so he was like a really tall dwarf. I was like, oh, that's adorable. And, but all of his people got killed, and then the other catch was, because, Thanos tends to leave, like, one or whoever alive, but the thing was, he's like, you only work for me, so he took his hands, and he, like, melted his hands or something, and so they were, like, metal hands, but Thor helps him out, and Thor had to kind of get burned alive, but he survives. And in order to keep this one thing open, I was like, damn, I mean, Thor is just getting tortured all over the place. So whoever likes him, they're not going to like that. And then they have this, like, epic battle, and Doctor Strange warns, like, oh, there's only one outcome. But I wasn't, he's, like, out of, what was it, 16,400,000 something? It was crazy number. And, he's like, there's only one outcome where everybody wins. But then he kind of insinuates that he made that up. But I wasn't sure. I might have been confused. Then, never mind. But then you get to the last part of the movie. And, that was, like, eventually, Thanos gets all the stones. Like, he comes to Wakanda because that's where Vision is, and he needs that one last stone that Vision has, and he gets it because they sent all these alien dogs, and you see all these Wakandans fight and stuff, but they kind of get overpowered, and then once Thanos gets the time stone, he can just travel to Earth no problem. but at first it looked like they were gonna, like, earlier in the movie, at first they looked like they were gonna win Thanos, but then fucking Peter Quill, I kind of got annoyed because he's like, what did you do? What did you do with the Gamora? And, like, Tony's trying to tell him, like, dude, stop. We need to get this. This is more important than what's going on. And he's, like, so upset. And then he's like, no. And Mantis is trying to keep, him, like, stunned for a little bit. But she can only do it for so long. I was so annoyed with him. Like, I'm like, they could have got him. And then, whatever. Peter. So much hate, but okay, anyway, to the end of the movie, but then, he eventually gets all the things, and so Thanos has this, like, once he gets all the stones, he goes to, like, this really weird place, and Gamora is, like, a little girl, and she's like, oh, you're something, like, you're finally doing it or something, and he's like, yeah, it needs to be done. And then you flash right back to Earth, and then all of a sudden, people just start turning into ash. It was really weird and creepy. Like, that's kind of nightmare feel-ish, to be honest. Some people might get some nightmares from that. It was sad because we lose Scarlet Witch, we lose T'Challa. Vision sort of dies, but it looks like maybe Shuri might be able to help him. Because at first I thought Okoye, I'm butchering names so bad. I'm so sorry. Kaye, I thought she was gonna disappear. I'm like, no! But then T'Challa disappears. I was like, why? And then always, this is the one thing I was really, really annoyed. I don't know what it is with Marvel movies and torturing Tony Stark. They have this, like, thing where they like to cause him as much mental pain and anguish as possible. And of course, because everybody's like, half the world is disappearing, Peter Parker suddenly goes, he's like, Tony, I don't feel well. And he's like, what? And he's like, I don't feel well. And he, like, latches onto Tony. Like, he's gripping him, and he's like, hugging him tight, and he just disappears in his arms. And that's the other point I almost started crying, because that kid was, like, not like a son, but like a nephew, even though he's like a father figure to Peter. And then it kind of goes back to the one scene in the previous Avengers movies where he's, like, all alone and looking desperate. And I'm like, why? Why do they like to torture this man? It's like, he's got PTSD, and, he has to deal with all this mental anguish and stuff, and it takes him a while to trust people and to get to know people or get along with people, and they just took the one thing that, he was like a mentor to somebody, and they just disappear, right? Oh my god, I'm so angry. I'm so upset because you don't do that to him. Anyway, so that's my rant about that. Oh yeah, and then Groot goes, Drax goes, Mantis goes, I know I'm missing somebody else. Oh, Bucky! Bucky goes, he disappears into ash. It was, like, a lot of people. I think the ones who do survive was Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, Captain America, the, Black Widow. No, I think Falcon, he disappears. Rhodey, I believe Rhodey survives. I think he survives. And I know I'm missing somebody else that survives. I mean, they weren't joking when they're like, yeah, people are gonna die. They killed, like, I think they did kill off half the cast. And it was terrible. I was like, oh, I don't understand the decisions that were made. But I guess Thanos kept his promise in keeping Tony alive. So, even though Thanos said it was like random, but I don't know. I don't know if he had like, I don't know. So basically, oh yeah, Thanos said the reason why he's like, I'm gonna do this and then I just want to rest. That's all my mission was to get all the stones and to rest. And to watch the sunset. And that's how the movie ends. He sits on his stoop, where, like, some planet, and he just watches the sunrise, and then it goes blank. And then they kind of, I don't know if it was intentional, but they kind of tease like, a bonus thing was happening right after the credits, and it didn't happen. It just went to, like, it flashed the Infinity War thing, and then the credits, and then the ending credit scene. So, you see the back of his head, and you already know it's Nick Fury and Maria Hill. And I was like, oh, they're back. And then all of a sudden, some car just pulls over and just stops, and Nick is like, oh, go check, see if they're okay. Because they come out of this, like, roadway, like, right, like, quick. And, they just, like, and Maria's like, there's nobody in there. And Nick's like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden, she starts disappearing. And he's like, what? And Nick was like, what's going on? And then he starts disappearing. He's like, and he's pushing this button, and you're trying to figure out, what is he pushing? And all of a sudden, he's like, and it just, I was like, oh, that's fantastic. They almost made him say his catchphrase, motherfucker. But when because it says send, like, sending or something, sending, sent, and then it flashes, and it's the Captain Marvel logo. I will say, there was two people missing. Like, there's two characters missing in this movie. One was Hawkeye, and the other was Ant-Man. I didn't really care that Ant-Man was missing, because that's my least favorite Marvel movie. I don't like it very much. It's just, I didn't think it was good. And he was missing. And I was like, that's kind of weird, but who knows? Who knows how they'll explain it, or if they'll bring him for Infinity War 2. Overall, the movie was, like, excellent. Like, it flowed well. Like, there was like, right enough action, right enough. There might be, like, some plot holes that people will find. They always do. That's why I need to watch it a second time to see if I miss anything, or if there was anything that stood out. But I don't know if I'm gonna watch it so soon, because those scenes were, like, heart-wrenching. Like, I don't know. Especially if it involves your favorite character, nobody's gonna be happy. I mean, there might be some people that are happy, like, oh, my character survived, like, Tony survived. That's all I care. You know, he got stabbed, and Peter died in his arms, and they like to torture him, and I don't like that very much. I will say, like, you can see all the individual hands that were in this movie. Like, you have James Gunn, and he was one of the executive producers, and also Jon Favreau. So you get two funny guys adding their lines, but for their individual franchises, which was great. I thought that was fantastic. And they were the executive producers, because the Russo brothers were the directors for this one. And I think Stan Lee was a producer too. Stan Lee's cameo is pretty funny. He was like a bus driver, and he's like, what, you never seen an alien ship before? He was like really early in the movie. Usually, it's weird, because usually he shows up like halfway, but he shows up pretty early. I'm sure I'm missing more in this review, but I just want to get all my thoughts out. Like, that's why this is gonna be I know I keep repeating myself, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sure I'll do a much more thorough review, or maybe it'll be written so it's more coherent. This is just, like, Fan reaction. Oh my god. Oh god. Nobody. I'm telling you, nobody's prepared. You're not prepared. It was just. Wow. I mean, they warn. They did warn, so it's not like, eh. But, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to end this. But yeah. So, that's all my thoughts for right now, unless I think of something else and awkwardly edit it in. I don't think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna just leave this as it is. So, that's my review for this for now. I'll have other reviews later for movies and Broadway shows and stuff like that, so stay tuned. Don't cry too much, bring lots of tissues for this movie, or if you're seeing it again.